The last contemporary issue I'm going to be talking about is drugs in sport. Unfortunately, in modern sporting society, we can no longer be sure that sport is down to ability, talent, and hard work. In the 20th century, drugs have been a major part of sports with lots of controversy involved. Drugs are used across the board in a variety of different sports. I'm now going to be explaining a few of the drugs that are used in sports. The first drug I'm going to talk about is beta blockers. They are used to decrease the heart rate. They can be used in sports such as archery and shooting. This can help to calm nerves and help concentration to get the best possible aim. Another popular drug taken in sport is steroids. These increase people's muscle mass to make them really muscular. And examples of athletes that take steroids are rugby players and weightlifters. However, steroids are found that have many health problems. For example, they can make males infertile. The final drug I'm going to be talking about is diuretics, also called water pills. They are medication designed to increase the amount of water and salt expelled from the body as urine. Athletes that want to lose water weight may take these pills to lose maximum weight they can. This has come with several health risks. If the body loses too much water, then this can be really harmful to their health. However, it gets worse. Some drugs can be taken to hide and mask other drugs that the athletes are taking. Not only are drugs unsafe, but they make it completely unfair to other people that are competing in the same competition. Next, I'm going to be talking about two different views on people taking drugs in sport. One person is for drugs being used in sport. His name is Victor. He believes that drugs can enhance people's already natural ability. He believes it would be safer, so if we make it fine for people to take drugs, then we can make sure they're safe, and also the money that is put into drug testing, we can be put into facilities and possibly create more safer drugs for athletes to be able to take. He also argues that if you make drugs available to everyone, then it's a fair game. Whereas if some people are taking it and some people aren't, then it isn't a fair game. So why not just make it allowed so then it is a fair game for everyone? On the other hand, you have people like Dr. Richard Budgett. He is completely against drugs being used in sport. He believes that it's not fair, so it's not fair that some people are taking drugs and some people aren't taking drugs. He believes that people won't train as hard. So if people are reliant on a drug, then they're not going to train as hard, which means they are basically relying on a drug to make them perform as well as they are. He also believes they're unsafe, so they come with many health risks. All in all, it's just a complete negative idea. There is two completely different composing ideas. One are completely for it, one are completely against it. So in contemporary sport and society, it is very much still up in the air whether drugs should. Next, I'm going to be going on to talking about Scottish footballer Gary O'Connor, who made it into the national team at just aged 18. He was at the top of his game till it all came tumbling down in 2009, where he failed a drug test whilst playing a Premier League side, Birmingham City. He ended up throwing his £4 million career and was given 200 hours of community service to complete. The outcome of him taking drugs, well, this meant that his whole life had changed. He now lives in a council house and is no longer able to play the high standard that he previously did. All his training, all his hard work was completely out of the window due to him taking drugs. This is where Dr. Richard Budgett would argue that taking drugs in sport just isn't worth it because they're banned and it could literally just throw your whole career out the window just for taking drugs. He is just one example out of the hundreds of sporting stars that have been caught out for taking drugs and have had bans and fines and suspensions just for taking drugs. Moving on, next I'm going to be talking about key organisations put in place to try and combat anti-doping and drugs used in sport. WADA stands for World Anti-Doping Agency. The World Anti-Doping Agency was founded with the aim of bringing consistency to anti-doping policies and regulations within sports organisation and governments' rights across the world. They put together and oversee anti-doping policies, rules and regulations worldwide. The International Olympic Committee work with WADA to combat the doping and to aim for the most possible fair Olympics that they can. Similarly, UKAD are also an organisation protecting the right to enjoy a doping-free sport. To summarise, these three organisations are key for a safe and fair sporting world. Without these, doping would be a lot worse than it already is. To summarise, I think drugs and doping has had a huge impact on modern day sport. I think historically it wasn't impacted so much. I think it was just based on people's natural ability, talent, passion and hard work. But I think as technology has improved and science has improved, people have found ways around that. Especially in the modern day society, it's only going to get worse as technology improves and as science improves. I also believe that because of this, people are going to find ways of making it easier to hide drugs and hide the fact that people are taking drugs. So it's going to be harder to detect who is and who isn't taking them. I also think where drugs is being so normalised that aspiring sporting stars, it will just become the norm of society, and more younger athletes will start taking drugs and they'll rely on that, which means they're not going to train as hard. And I just think it's going to have a huge negative impacts on society as a whole. I think the sad thing is that nowadays you go to these sporting events and no one really knows if that's their true ability or if they're just taking a drug to enhance their performance. To conclude, I think that drugs have had a huge impact in sport and will continue to have a huge impact on sport unless something is done about it.